Walters is back for another season as the official bar of the Nats Chat podcast. They've been with us since our very first season on air in 2021. Walters is located just across the street from the ballpark.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month. Even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending. Zero tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Evening. Buyer's remorse. Buy a new car? I'll be moving in. Let's get started.
Sorry, I think there's been a mistake. I bought it from Carvana.
You what?
Yeah, great price. I even have 7 days to love it or return it.
So there's no...
No buyer's remorse. More like buyer's rejoice.
I guess I'll let myself out. Congratulations. I mean it.
Buyer's rejoice. Buy your car today on Carvana.
Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
The Sherwin-Williams Summer Sale is here. Get 30% off select paints and stains or 35% off our newest product, Emerald Symmetry, July 17th through the 27th. Whether you're refreshing your interior or exterior, we've got the colors to bring your vision to life. And with delivery, getting everything to your door is easier than ever. Shop online to have it delivered or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. Delivery available on qualifying orders.
The 1-1. Swinging a ground ball fair inside the first base bag, down the line. Chugging around third, Cortez. He'll score. Wood picks it up on the warning track. Kuroda Growers into second with an RBI double, and it's 3-0 Athletics.
Swinging a drive to right center field. Wood is going back. This is out by the wall. It's gone. Soderstrom hits his second 2-run homer in as many nights. It is 8-0 Athletics.
The 2-0. Swinging a ground ball to short. A's have a chance to turn two. Wilson to second for one. And that's all they need to end the ball game. So Cruz grounds out after Vivas had the sac fly. And the Nationals go down 15-1.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. For however long that you have been following baseball, have you ever seen a team win one game by at least 19 runs and then lose the next game by at least 14 runs? We have had that with the Nats over the first two games of a 3-game series at the Athletics at Sutter Health Park in West Sacramento, California. Late night on Friday night, a 23-4 win, but late night on Saturday night, a 15-1 loss. The Nats in MLB's 2026 regular season now are back below 500, 49-50 with a run differential of plus 12. The A's have snapped their 10-game losing streak. They now are 42-56 with an MLB worst run differential of minus 111. Good to have you with us as we record this in the 1 a.m. Eastern hour on Sunday, a rather different tone of our recording in the 1 a.m. Eastern hour on Saturday. You can find us on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. And we have a website that we invite you to check out, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. In MLB history, has it ever been the case, A, that the same position player pitched in back-to-back games for a team, and B, that those back-to-back games were a win by at least 19 runs, followed by a loss by at least 14 runs? Because we just had that with Nats third baseman / second baseman Jorbit Vivas. Yes, he pitched again. Game 1, he allowed 2 runs, 1 earned in the bottom of the 9th. Game 2, he allowed 1 run in the bottom of the 8th, and he plated the Nats' lone run in this game. He had the Nats' 1-run 9th, had a 1-out first pitch RBI sac fly to cut the Nats deficit to 15-1. Vivas in the game played third base and second base and pitched. There was that, I don't know, Mark, if we called this the Jorbit Vivas series or what, but what happened with him in a lot of ways captures the absurdity of what we've had over the first 2 games of this series.
Completely absurd. And here's another absurd thought for you, Al. I've got to believe that Blake Butera will not let him pitch on Sunday. You can't let him go 3 days in a row, right? You got to protect that arm. You can't let that happen. I don't know if I remember back-to-back games this bizarre in opposite directions. like that. It was just truly one of the stranger 27 hours of baseball you'll ever see, to win a game so convincingly. And I'm not saying I expected them to score 23 runs the next night, but with that lineup, you thought they were going to do something. And the fact that they were being no hit into the 7th was just astounding, let alone the fact that the pitching staff gave up all those runs and turned it into a blowout loss of that extent. So really strange. I just hope that Sunday's game is more normal. Whatever that looks like, I hope Sunday's game is more normal.
Yeah, normalcy would be good at some point here in this series. It's just a funny deal because we all understand how baseball works, right? Like momentum is only as good as the next day's starting pitcher, and each game is its own entity, etc. But like, it never ceases to amaze what you can have in that the same team that looks dominant in one game can look feeble in the next game. And then that in turn doesn't mean anything for the following game. Like, who knows what could happen on Sunday, but would anyone be shocked if the Nats came out and won game 3 of this series in blowout fashion? And so you end up sandwiching 2 blowout wins around a blowout loss. Like, this is a ballpark at which weird things can happen. The Athletics are not a good team, and the Nats, we know, are an explosive offensive team. So it just may be that Saturday night was a bad night, and that offense gets right back to where it was on Friday night come Sunday. But that's kind of how things can go in a baseball season. We know that, but it is still odd to see that, especially to this extreme, as we have seen over the first 2 games of this series.
I feel like this has been a perfect convergence of events. The Nats lineup, we know how explosive that is. The A's pitching staff and the Nats pitching staff, and that ballpark in Sacramento, and you put that all together, and this always loomed to me as like, this is just going to be a weird series. And I'll tell you, I know it didn't turn out this way at all, but at 5-0 after the first inning, I was thinking to myself, like, this game is far from over. It would not shock me if the Nats scored a bunch of runs and actually won this game going away. Now, of course, that did not happen. There were no hit into the 7th inning. But I do feel like this combination of factors, and this is probably going to apply in Colorado too in the next series, I feel like these are not going to be normal games for the most part. There's going to be potential for a whole lot of runs to score and a whole lot of runs to be given up. And the final totals of these games are going to be a little bit absurd. It'll be fascinating to see what like the total stats, both from an offensive standpoint and a pitching standpoint, are at the end of this road trip.
So when it came to the Nats' offensive stats in this game, as you might expect, not so good. Just 1 run, just 4 hits, which were a double, and 3 singles. The Nats went just 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position, struck out 11 times, did work 4 walks, but we did see the Athletic starting pitcher, JT Ginn, have his way with the Nats. JT Ginn is having a good season, but he in this game did well against this Nats offense. 6 1/3 scoreless innings, 7 strikeouts. That the Nats got no hit in this game for 6 1/3 innings. I mean, again, it's that juxtaposition of this spectacular offensive performance in game 1, and then the following game you get no hit. It's not just that the offense wasn't as good in game 2. You get no hit for 6 1/3 innings. You just kind of shake your head at something like that.
Yeah, it was absurd, but I will say this, JT Ginn looked fantastic. That wasn't a fluke of a start. It didn't feel like from my standpoint. I know he had a no-hit bid earlier in the year as well, and in this case, there was a couple of hard-hit balls, but most everything was on the ground. There were 2 really nice plays in the field, but they were not like diving catches by outfielders on screaming line drives. You had Joshua Kuroda-Grauer making 2 really nice plays, one on a pop-up into shallow left field, and then one on a grounder down the line by Dylan Cruz, where he had to make a long throw across the diamond. And those were really the only close calls until you had the 7th inning and Keibert Ruiz ended the no-hit bid with his single. So I think Ginn was legit. Not a good night for the Nats offensively, sure, but I think you have to give some credit to the guy they were facing, who, as you said, has been good, had a no-hit bid earlier this year, and looked like he was completely on in this game.
the top four batters in the Nats lineup, James Wood, Luis Garcia Jr., Jose Tena, and C.J. Abrams, hitless in this game, combined for just one walk and also combined for 8 strikeouts. James Wood is the Nats starting right fielder and number one batter, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Had some rough moments in the field as well. And you noted this on NatsJournal.com, and we by now, are not surprised by this, but each game is its own thing when it comes to manager Blake Butera, when it comes to the Nats and their new process and the lineup. And so this lineup was vastly different than the lineup from Friday night. Different results. I'm not saying that the different lineup is why you got the different results, but we had what we had on Friday night, right? And then we in this game see no Andres Chaparro. We see Jose Tena batting in the number 3 spot. We see not Harry Ford starting at catcher, but Keibert Ruiz. But if you've been following this team, you're not surprised by that. And I don't think you should be bothered by that. This is the way that this offense has operated. Saturday night was not a good night, but it is kind of funny. You look back on it, Jose Tena was in the number 3 spot for this game off the prolific offensive output on Friday night, a game in which Tena, who has not had a good season, didn't play at all.
I got a few commenters upset that Andres Chaparro was not back in the lineup. Is that a statement that anybody would have made 24 hours earlier? That's how bizarre this has all been, that there were actually people upset that Butera didn't have Chaparro in the lineup. But as you said, if you've been following this all year, you understand they don't make out their lineups. And I say they because I don't think it's just Blake Butera. This is the front office as well, playing a big role in at least offering him information and guidance, and then ultimately Butera filling out the lineup card. They don't make out that lineup card based on what happened the night before. They make it out based on what they think the best matchup is for that particular game. And against Ginn, they felt like it made sense to load up with lefties. And so no Chaparro, no Curtis Mead in the starting lineup. He came in later on. Yes, Jose Tena batting third. You had Dylan Cruz bumped down to the number 9 spot. I know he hasn't looked great himself either, but I thought that was a little bit of an interesting maneuver. So I think we have to accept that. I understand the frustration at times that people might get when they're like, why is this guy not playing? Why is this guy hitting here? It's still the most productive lineup in baseball. And so I think we have to give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt here, that they have an idea of what they're doing. It doesn't mean 162 games. It's always going to come out great. But in the bigger picture, they clearly have figured out how to maximize matchups as best as possible from an offensive standpoint. Yeah, it's annoying when a couple of guys who had career nights the night before aren't in there the next night and the team, is no hit in the 7th inning. But I would tend to believe that that's not the reason that they were no hit. It was JT Ginn pitching really well. It's not because Harry Ford and Curtis Mead and Andres Chaparro weren't in the lineup.
No, and the way that the Nats now look at things, and I don't think this is the wrong way to look at things, what you did the previous game doesn't necessarily mean anything for what you will do the following game. It's a different game with a different pitching matchup, different circumstances, etc.
Evening. Buyer's remorse. Buy a new car? I'll be moving in. Let's get started.
Sorry, I think there's been a mistake. I bought it from Carvana.
You what?
Yeah, great price. I even have 7 days to love it or return it.
So there's no...
No buyer's remorse. More like buyer's rejoice.
I guess I'll let myself out. Congratulations. I mean it.
Buyer's rejoice. Buy your car today on Carvana.
Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Littell from the stretch all the time. And he throws his first pitch, and it's launched in the air, left field. Back goes Lyle to the track, to the wall. It is long gone. Onto the roof of the clubhouse. First pitch home run for Wilson. And just like that, the Athletics have a 1-0 lead.
So the Nats starting pitcher for this 15-1 loss at the Athletics late night on Saturday night was Zack Littell, and he was truly the Nats starting pitcher. The Nats did not use an opener for a Zack Littell game. Things did not go so well. Littell allowed 8 runs in 6 innings. He gave up 2 home runs, 2 doubles, and 4 singles, issued 4 walks and a hit by pitch, recorded 4 strikeouts through 96 pitches, 61 strikes, 35 balls. Littell allowed 5 runs in the bottom of the first. So if ever you are wondering, well, why do the Nats use an opener for Zack Littell? This game was kind of proof of while you do that with someone like Littell, although as mentioned, no opener in this game. Now, he allowed 5 runs in the bottom of the first, allowed a run in the bottom of the second, scoreless third, fourth, and fifth innings, but then gave up a 2-run homer in the bottom of the sixth. You figured that the home run might be a problem for Littell in this game, given the ballpark, given his penchant for giving up the home run. Gives up 2 homers in this game, but it wasn't just the home run. He had major issues, especially in that bottom of the first. Gave the Nats some length, so, I suppose you give him credit for that, but 8 runs in 6 innings, a rough outing for him.
Well, the home run didn't really become a problem for him until the first pitch that he threw. It was leadoff Jacob Wilson ambush in the bottom of the first. Now, you're right. There was a whole lot of other loud contact. That first inning, he was throwing everything over the plate, and they were making loud contact across the board. And that in particular, I think, was what was so discouraging about it. It's not necessarily the homers. We know he gives up home runs, and there have been times that he's actually pitched effectively and given up a couple of solo homers, and you live with that. It was everything else in this game that I think was the problem, especially in that first inning. Now, the bizarre thing, I looked this up. I was actually surprised by this. I didn't realize this was the case. His first inning ERA this year was 3.75 entering this game. 12 times that he has truly started a game and pitched a first inning, and he'd only given up 5 runs in those 12 starts. Now he ends up giving up 5 in this one in the first inning. His second inning ERA is awful. And so I don't know if it would have made a difference having an opener in the first inning and then putting him out there in the second. I just don't think he had it tonight, and it wasn't going to magically change if he pitched the second inning instead of the first inning. And the other part of that equation, the A's lineup is kind of balanced lefty-righty, so I'm not even sure that using a P.J. Poulin or a Carson Palmquist would have given you much of a platoon advantage in the first inning. Wilson bats right-handed, Langoliers bats right-handed. So I understood why Littell started this game, and then on top of that, we've been discussing this. This is a 6-game road trip in which you're going to need all the fresh bullpen arms you can get your hands on. And do you really want to burn one of them up in the first inning of this game? Now, maybe it would have made a difference. I got a hunch that it would not. And this was just about Littell really having an off night in which he found way too much of the plate. And as we know, if he doesn't hit his spots, it's damaging, especially in a ballpark like that.
Yeah, the margin for error with Littell is thin. I think what's interesting with the Nats and the opener strategy, though, is this. The opener strategy for a lot of teams isn't about righty-lefty splits. It's more just about the first inning is traditionally the highest scoring inning. The idea is you use a reliever who throws hard to get you through that first inning and facing, in theory, the opposing team's best 3 batters. And then you go to your starting pitcher who, usually is a guy who you maybe have some issues with. That's why you don't want him pitching in that first inning. But it's not always so much like a righty-lefty thing. I know for the Nats it is, and I find that interesting. But like when the opener strategy was pioneered by Tampa Bay in 2018, it was pioneered with Sergio Romo, who was a righty reliever. Like, it wasn't so much a righty-lefty thing. It was just, hey, we have a guy who generates strikeouts. He's comfortable doing this. Let's have him start the game, get the first 3 outs, and then go to our starting pitcher. But the Nats don't seem to view the opener strategy that way. They do seem to base it more often than not on teams with lefty-heavy lineups and going with lefty openers as opposed to just going with a relief pitcher as an opener and having that guy go out there, go all out, throw hard, hopefully generate some strikeouts, and then you go to your starting pitcher. Now, I have to laugh as I'm saying all this because the Nats don't really have relievers who generate strikeouts, and perhaps that's part of why the Nats are approaching the opener strategy in this way.
I was about to say, which Nats reliever would you feel confident in facing the best hitters in the league and getting swings and misses in the first inning? I don't know if they have one who fits that description. But no, you are right. And I want to say Brad Lord is the only right-hander who has opened for them, and it was once for Andrew Alvarez. Otherwise, it's been entirely lefties opening for Littell and Michaelis. And yeah, when it's come up, Blake Butera's explanation has mostly been that it's based on facing a team that has big left-handed hitters at the top of their lineup. And so you'd rather have a P.J. Poulin, Carson Palmquist, Richard Lovelady facing those hitters. And so it is very much platoon matchups above all else, which is interesting because we know his background is from Tampa Bay. That's where he's getting all these ideas from. And he's incorporating part of that, but not necessarily in the same way that they did. Now, what would be fascinating if the Nats had a left-handed starter that they weren't real comfortable with or didn't feel like they, had the ability to give him length on a regular basis, would they open with a right-hander for him? As we said, Brad Lord did it once for Alvarez, and that's it. I think it's probably a reflection of Littell and Michaelis and just what they are. Let's be honest, what they are at this point in their careers. And so you're just trying to avoid having them face really good left-handed batters. In this case, it didn't seem to make sense, although it did come back to haunt them because that was an awful first inning from Littell.
It was for sure, and the Nats' relief pitching in this game was not much better. Max Kranik, Carson Palmquist, and yes, Jorbit Vivas, those three guys, 2 relief pitchers and a position player, combined to allow 7 runs in 2 innings. Max Kranik, in his Nats debut, officially allowed 5 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He would ended up being a 6-run 7th for the Athletics. Had some problems, shall we say. Gave up a leadoff home run, issued a 1-out walk, issued a 2-out wild pitch, issued a 2-out walk, gave up back-to-back run-scoring singles. The Athletics were up 11-0 when Kranik exited the game. Carson Palmquist came into the game, issued a 2-out hit by pitch to load the bases, and then gave up a 2-out opposite field 3-run double by Shea Langoliers, a first pitch 3-run double for a 14-0 Athletics lead. James Wood had a shot to make the catch on this play.
Kicks and fires. Fastball, fly ball, sliced to right field near the corner. Wood going back onto the track in front of the bullpen, and he couldn't catch it. He overran the ball. It landed right at the base of the fence. The throw comes to second. 3 runs come in. It is 14-0 A's.
Misplayed the ball near that short wall at Sutter Health Park. This off Wood earlier in the inning, having a fielding error. Not his best inning in terms of being in the field. But, I had to laugh because here we had Kranik making his Nats debut. First batter he faces, he gives up a home run. And I'm like, Max, you're going to fit in just fine with this Nats bullpen, man. Welcome to the club. But boy, in an ugly loss, you get an ugly relief pitching inning like that. The Nats giving up 6 runs in the bottom of the 7th.
If anyone out there thought that Max Kranik was going to be the savior for this bullpen, it didn't exactly look that way. Now, it's one outing. I don't want to read too much into it, but yikes, that did not look good at all. And I tried to dig up the stats in this. I could not figure out how to actually look this up. But I swear, Kranik is like the 27th different Nationals reliever to give up a home run to the first batter he ever faced with the team since like 2021. I feel like this happens all the time. Brand new guy comes in and immediately gives up a home run to the first batter faced. I don't know how to look that one up other than scrolling through all the names and looking up their game logs, which I didn't have time to do. But man, it's so demoralizing when that's the case. Again, not that this guy is supposed to be the savior, but he has some experience. He's been successful in the big leagues in the past when healthy. For it to start out in such an ugly fashion like that, not good. It doesn't bode well. Hopefully he bounces back the next time they use him. And you're right, James Wood did not look comfortable in the outfield. I get it's a blowout game. It's a weird ballpark and all that. And he did technically rob a home run, too, over a right field fence that's like 3 feet tall. I will just say, James Wood has had a bad couple of games coming out of the All-Star break. He's struck out 7 times already after just being completely on fire going into the break. And I don't want to sound too many alarms yet. It's 2 games, but we all know what happened last year coming out of the All-Star game. I would really like to see him have a good game on Sunday and put that notion to rest that he is going to go through one of these slumps again coming out of the break, because these first 2 games, not pretty from him.
I would love to know from an outfielder, especially someone like Jacob Young, who we know is good at handling outfield walls. Do you like a short wall, or do you prefer a more normal wall, like a wall with a more normal height? Because the short wall, I feel like, can mess with your mind as an outfielder. And I don't know that the short wall specifically is why Wood misplayed that 3-run double. The wind may have played a major role in what happened there as well. But it is odd when you're an outfielder and you're trying to navigate going back to the wall, and you know that that is a short wall. And I guess you do have to think about, okay, I can make a home run saving catch. I can potentially go over the wall. If I crash into the wall, you're talking about the top of the wall, like cutting into my ribs or my obliques. So I wonder, like, if you're an outfielder, does that mess with your mind? A short wall like what we have for the Nats in this series?
I've never asked one of them that directly, but I would not be surprised at all if it does. I think a 6-foot or an 8-foot wall probably feels a lot more normal to them. It's that fear, like you said, you either like jamming your midsection into it or tumbling all the way over. I remember a few years ago, it's the first time I'd ever seen him play in a game. Dalen Lyle was a minor leaguer in Nats camp who got called up just for the day and actually made the trip with them to Fort Myers Red Sox camp. For those who don't know, the spring training ballpark of the Red Sox is a replica, mini replica of Fenway Park. So it's got like a fake green monster in left field, but it's also got that incredibly short wall in right center field all the way down the right field line. And Dalen Lyle, literally the moment he entered the game as a backup player, minor league call-up for the day, chased down a ball all the way to the wall, tries to rob the homer, flipped over the fence, landed on his back on concrete, had to be taken off in an ambulance. Everybody was terrified that it was a major injury. It turns out it wasn't for him. So I'd be willing to bet that these guys don't actually like having to play with a wall that short for that kind of fear of going over the wall or jamming your midsection into it. I'm sure it does throw you off. There's a little bit of comfort in, okay, here's the warning track I can feel under my feet, and now I know brace for impact against the wall that I know is taller than I am. I don't know if that was the case in this game, but I would bet in general guys do not like those really short walls.
Well, the Nats still can win this series. We have Game 3 on Sunday afternoon at 4:05, and the Nats' best pitcher this season, Foster Griffin, will be making the start off his terrific outing in the All-Star game this past Tuesday night. A perfect top of the fifth with 2 swinging strikeouts, and he tossed that perfect top of the fifth over just 10 pitches. But yeah, what a series so far. A 23-4 win followed by a 15-1 loss. So you tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Nats Chat is on the radio Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Richmond, which is 106.1 FM in the Richmond, Virginia area, and Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Radio 94.1 in the Virginia Beach area. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
8-0 Athletics as Ginn throws the 0-1. Swinging a line drive into center. There's a base hit. Keibert Ruiz singles with 1 out in the 7th inning. A clean single into center. And the A's fans are on their feet now applauding the effort of the right-hander J.T. Ginn.